But while Britain and the US may have committed to cooperate in various sectors, a free trade agreement between the two countries looks unlikely to come through in the near future. In the meeting with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Joe Biden refrained from any commitments to a free trade agreement. He said the issue was still under discussion. The US president has also warned that he, along, he says, with many Republicans, would not like to see a change in the Irish peace accords following the UK's exit from the European Union. Biden insisted that those are actually two different subjects.
President Trump said that the UK was in front of the queue when it came to a trade deal. You seem to have a different approach. Is that because of your heritage, your concern about the Irish protocol? Is that what's holding it back when it comes to doing this deal with the UK?
There are two separate issues. On the deal with the UK, that's continued to be discussed. But on the protocols, I feel very strongly about those. We spent an enormous amount of time and effort in the United States. It was a major bipartisan effort made, and I would not at all like to see, nor I might add, would many of my Republican colleagues like to see a change in the Irish Accords, the end result having a closed border again.
Well, the UK also says it doesn't want to see any change in the Irish peace agreements that would harm the border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. Now, last week, the Democratic Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, did link respecting the peace agreement in Northern Ireland to any trade negotiations with London. The peace agreement in Northern Ireland helps provide an open border with the Republic. The Boris Johnson government is still involved in post-Brexit negotiations with the European Union over customs arrangements for Northern Ireland, which it considers not to be working satisfactorily. Before the two leaders met, Boris Johnson indicated that he does not expect a free trade agreement with the United States to come through before the next UK general election, which is due in 2024. Johnson told reporters travelling to the US with him that Joe Biden has too many domestic priorities to find time to negotiate a trade deal with the UK. A trade deal with the US was billed by some Brexit campaigners as one of the prizes of leaving the EU, so Boris Johnson is under pressure to prove that the biggest upheaval in Britain's foreign policy in the last 50 years was worth it. For more, let's go to Benji Hire, who is joining us live from London now. And Benji, how big a blow is it to Boris Johnson that he's not making much progress towards that US-UK trade deal?
Well, look, Ollie, I don't think many, and even Boris Johnson admitted this himself, would have expected the Prime Minister to have gone to Washington and returned to the UK with a trade deal signed, sealed and delivered. But certainly he was hoping, and the British government was hoping, for some progress. And when the questions were put to Mr Biden about whether Britain would be back at the end of the line, back at the end of the queue, the President's response was, we're still going to have to work that through. So clearly a number of stumbling blocks that are still in the way. And that reference to being at back of the line was, of course, a mention by President Obama, the former American president, kind of warning Britain against leaving the European Union in the fear that if they did so, the UK wouldn't be able to immediately sign up to some sort of trade agreement with the US. That would take a very long time. And that's proving to certainly be the case. You also mentioned in your introduction that Northern Ireland Protocol, something really close to the President's heart. And until that's resolved, again, politicians on both sides of the political aisle in America might be reluctant to actually agree anything with the United Kingdom. With all that said, Boris Johnson will come back to the United Kingdom with some positives. He has secured that lifting, or at least President Biden has made that decision to lift that ban on British beef. There's been a change to export rules in regard to tariffs on whiskey, for example, and a resolution to a long battle between Boeing and Airbus as well. And then also a mention from an official spokesperson from the British government, which is that there could be a potential effort to get Britain involved in the North American Free Trade Agreement, that's between the US, Canada and Mexico, as some sort of route in to try to secure that direct deal with the United States. But plenty of work still needs to be done in that regard.
OK, and what about relations, Benji, between the two men, but also their countries, which have faced some recent difficulties, it has to be said? Has Boris Johnson's visit to the US yielded positive signs about that so-called special relationship?
Yeah, on the two men themselves, I mean, it's an interesting one. President Biden famously mentioned that, or famously called Boris Johnson, I should say, a kind of physical and emotional clone of former President Donald Trump. And I don't think he meant that in a very complimentary way. But it's important not to look too much into the personal. The fact is that Boris Johnson did get his visit to the White House. And when he was there, warm words were exchanged, even on very sensitive issues like Afghanistan. Boris Johnson highlighting how actually the US had done a solid job in many of the ways in which they withdrew from the country. And so a concerted effort to try and maintain that so-called special relationship, especially when it comes to climate change. And really, I think there's an interest from both sides here, not to get into any sort of diplomatic spat or indeed throw insults one way or another. Both the UK and the US need to come out of this with some sort of progress, recognition, positive rhetoric when it comes to climate change, with only weeks to go until that all-important United Nations COP26 climate summit, which being hosted by the UK. And so, again, warm words exchanged on that point too. And finally, a mention of AUKUS, that new alliance, that defence pact between the UK, Australia and the United States. Again, a recognition of the close relationship between the two countries, the shared values they have, and certainly a pointing towards a closeness of relationship across the North Atlantic. Then, in addition, if I may add, Boris Johnson and Joe Biden united on their passion for many different things, including trains, funnily enough. So warm words exchanged on that too. And Boris Johnson will be hoping and feeling that he has got closer to the US president, someone that, again, there has been an exchange of words between them on some controversial notes.
OK, Benji, thank you.